And welcome back to Don't Limit God. I am Joseph, your host. And today I am here with Brenden from MasterTalks. Supposed to take a deep breath. All right. Yeah, I didn't master it. I'm getting there. Brenden helps with public speaking, tips, tricks to make you a better speaker in public and also in private. How are you?
Very good, Joseph. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. So every episode we start off like this. God, love, and truth are universal. But the specifics of God, love, and truth are not. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say for me, Joseph, I'll probably give a weird spin than most people would. I think we all have the potential to be gods, all of us. And the reason I say that is because what is God at the end of the day? It's a symbol of different principles, different ways of how to live life so that we can attain a meaning that we then prescribe to our own lives. So in that way, I've always believed in many ways that we all have the power to be our own God, in the sense of being the God for the people around us, helping people in the community, taking ownership, taking leadership in the different things that we do in life. So I consider myself a God. I consider other people a God, as long as they showcase that truth and that love for other people.
I don't agree.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I don't disagree. That's what I meant to say. Not I don't agree. I don't disagree. Double negative. So, Don't Limit God, it's about the people, right? So, give a brief summary of your journey and how you got to where you are now, especially with MasterTalk.
Yeah, for sure, brother. So when I was in university/college, I went to business school. And in business school, I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age were playing baseball or basketball, some other thing you wouldn't really see me playing, I did professional sports for nerds, which is presentations. And that's how I learned how to speak. I did that competitively when I was in university. But then as I got older, I started coaching people who were younger than me on how to speak. Mostly because we didn't really have a coach, we didn't really have any money, and we needed somebody to help these kids do really well at these competitions. And I was the only person up for the task, so I did it. So I just started helping them. But the goal is never to be a coach or to start a business. But a few years later, when I had the idea for MasterTalk, I realized I had something really special because there wasn't a lot of people sharing free communication knowledge for the world to learn from. So I wanted to be that person. So I started making YouTube videos on communication and public speaking. And then one thing led to another, and here we are today.
So I saw a quote that you said, the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old little girl whose parents can't afford communications coach, right? And so
Yep.
Where did that come from? What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure, brother. So it didn't really come from anywhere. I think it was more just as we work on our vision, things evolve over time. And I think what I realized, Joseph, because remember, I started my YouTube channel like my mother's basement, right? And I was just making videos. I didn't sit there on a couch and said, the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl. I kind of just said, well, I should make these videos and figure this shit out. And then later on, it turned into what it is. But I would say today, now that the vision is a lot more refined, what I keep thinking about and what really motivates me at the end of the day is the next Elon Musk. And think about it. When Elon was 15 years old, nobody cared about it. Nobody believed in him. Nobody helped him because he didn't have an exit. He didn't make any money. He didn't have a company. He just had a dream. And that's it. And he had the talent, but nobody even bat an eye. And he obviously couldn't afford a communication coach back then either. Whereas I believe that if he had some training, he would be a lot better as a communicator. It's super easy to fix communication if you know what you're doing there. So I just thought about the next Elon Musk, who might be a 7-year-old girl, who might be an 8-year-old boy in some part of the world that we don't know either. They might be in Cambodia. Who knows? But what I do know for sure is chances are that person can't afford a communication coach either or doesn't understand the importance of communication in their dream. Because a big part about being a visionary is the narrative. The ability to convey your vision in a way that gets people excited to follow you, to help you, to support you, to make your dream come to life. And I realized I was the only human being on earth who could actually pull this off. So that's what made me take MasterTalk a lot more seriously, not just as a business, but mostly as a movement.
Okay, so I've done. Oh, there it is again. Now I'm conscious of it because I watched the video. So I've done a couple speeches or lectures or information things, but it was for military purposes. And so one of the topics that I had was sexual health, and for some reason, I don't know why, adults and sexual health, just the conversation is always funny because we know it, but we never really want to talk about it. And so my approach with it was sort of comedic, but I guess authentic, because I was kind of, freestyling it as I went on. Like, I had key points, but the connection between them, I just kind of let it flow. All right. So what are some tips that you can give beginning talkers or speakers, but also more experienced ones, on how to get better at their craft?
Absolutely, brother, and interesting topic. Indeed, that's definitely a challenge you want to navigate through. So definitely love the fact that you pushed through it and made it happen. So awesome. So yeah, I call this my easy threes, Joseph, and this is something anyone can implement, whether they're a beginner or they're an advanced speaker. Pretty much nobody does this on a consistent basis. So if you just implement these three things, you'll have what you need from this episode to take action on. So let's start with the first one, the random word exercise. So the random word exercise is super simple, Joseph. You take a random word, like headset, like hair, like wall, like eyes, and you create random presentations out of thin air. And the reason this is such a practical exercise is, A, you don't need a practice partner to do this. It only takes 60 seconds, and it builds up your resiliency over time. You know what I always tell people, Joseph, is if we can make sense out of nonsense, we can make sense out of anything. And that's really the magic that a lot of these exercises give us. So practice that every day for a few minutes a day. That's number one. Number two is question drills. We've all been in situations where we get asked questions we don't know the answer to, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's in a classroom, talking to customers at work, or even with our families. Did you take out the trash? You're like, shit, I don't know how to answer this one. So we always have questions that we don't know the answer to. Question drills fix this. So every day for 5 minutes, reflect and answer one question that you think the world will ask you in your life, and write the answer to that. This is easily applied in one's career or business, where you can just think about what's your prospect going to ask you? What's your customer going to ask you about your product or service? And if you do that for a year, Joseph, you'll have answered 365 questions. With only 5 minutes a day of work, you'll be unbeatable in your industry. That's number two. And then finally, number three, it's simple, but it's so simple that nobody does it. It's sending video messages. I'm not asking people to post on social media. I'm not asking people to go on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. But what I am asking is to make a list of the people you really care about in your life. And like people who have already poured into you. These could be business partners, family, wife, kids, husband, niece, nephew. When was the last time you sent them a video message? Just appreciating what they've done for you. Just do a few of those a day. 3 is more than enough a day. That's it.
Okay, so the video portion, what would that do? How would that help?
Absolutely. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? So if let's say we had a fitness trainer on and we asked that person, for someone who's getting started, what would you recommend? The fitness trainer will just look at both of us and say, walk. Do you walk every day?
That's true.
And then they go, no. Those like, okay, how about you start with walk? Oh, but what about the diet plans? Well, what's my calorie intake? Are you walking? No, then you don't. The diet plan doesn't matter. Right. Same thing with in the context of communication. The diet plan for communication is just having a bias for action. So in the sense when we think about video messages, whether it's the random word exercise, whether it's the question drill, whether it's the video messages, we don't get paid on how well we do it. We don't get points on how well we do it. That's what I always like to tell people. We get points for doing it. Doesn't matter how well we do it, it matters how many times we do it. So what the video message does, Joseph, and in terms of format, I wouldn't even overthink that either. Literally 15 seconds. Hey, Joseph, just want to say this quick video message. Say I'm thinking about you. Always great to hear from you, brother. Thanks so much for everything that you do for me and the people around you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Simple. Done. But when you start making video messages, you won't want to do that. You'll be like, oh my God, what will they think? So the key is just to build that muscle. And then when you start getting into the gym every few days, then it's easy to go back to it every day.
Well, so question: are you willing? So the second tip, random question. Do you want to do it now?
Yeah, of course. I can do all three. I mean, not the video message, but I can do the. Yeah, of course. Give me a random word. Let's start with that one. Any word you want, as long as I understand it.
Great. Man, I should have been prepared for the word. Spartan. That's fine.
Spartan. Gotcha. So, just so people know this who are listening, Joseph did not give me the word Spartan, and now I need to create a random presentation out of thin air. So here I go right now. You know what's super fun, Joseph? The other day I was talking to one of my friends, and he was saying that he was going to run a Spartan race in a few weeks. And I was super scared because I wanted to make sure that I did not get invited to that race because I stink at exercises, and there's no way that I'm going to run all of these obstacles, play in the mud, and finish this. But Patrick and Lauren are people who take the challenge head on, who run that Spartan race, who say, I am Spartan. I'm going to master this race. And that story really made me think about, Joseph, how are we acting and showing up in the world? Are we acting like people who don't want to take action? Are we acting like Spartans? That regardless of the obstacle in our way, regardless of the challenge, we act like Spartans. We still run towards the challenge and we say, you know what? Instead of worrying about the challenge, how about try me? Because that is the secret to life. So think about every area of your life and ask yourself, are you showing up like someone on the sidelines? Are you getting that big helmet on, taking that shield, and Spartaning your way to the top? And that choice is entirely yours.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
But the point I want to drive, Joseph, is I've done the exercise 3,000 times. Because a lot of people usually ask me, well, Brenden, how did you do that? What was the framework? What's the strategy? What's the formula? And the answer is, why do you need a formula? You're not walking it. The first 100 times of doing this exercise, which doesn't take that long, by the way, because it only takes a minute. I just did it for like 60 seconds. When you start, it's going to sound something like this. I don't know, dude, Spartan is like in the movie, or those are Trojan horse. And then over time, when you do this 20 times, 30 times, you start to do something that you never did with your communication. And that one thing is you start to have fun with it. Start to have fun. When was the last time we had fun with our communication skills, Joseph? That's really the point.
Yeah, no, that was great. And it was believable. It was you portrayed it very confidently and authentic. And I like it. I was like, oh man, listen, how am I showing up right now? Oh. And then so second tip, questions.
Sure, just ask me a question.
What if let's see where it goes. What if life doesn't end, but it's simply a cycle?
What if life doesn't end, but it's simply a cycle? I mean, in many ways, Joseph, you know what I would say is life is constantly evolving. You know, I've always believed that even after we're gone, we're still there. Just not our body, but our spirit, our mind, our soul, especially in the minds of other people. Right? Like if I said the word Michael Jackson, even if Michael Jackson isn't around, a lot of people remember that name. A lot of people remember the memories around that person and what that person did. So I do believe life in many ways, is a cycle that's constantly evolving. It's just the nature of that cycle changes over time. It starts with, our body and who we are and directly speaking to people and being in people's energy. And then later in life, during the other cycles, that meaning changes over time. So that would be my answer to the question.
I like that too. I agree.
But the caveat I would add, though, Joseph, is so the goal of the question drill is not really to ask random questions like the random word exercise. That goal is really to do random things. But the question drill, even if I was happy to answer the question, is more around directly your goal. So let's say, for example, one of your goals is to, speak on a topic on a podcast. So, for example, for that goal, when you're a guest on a podcast and somebody's asked you questions around your expertise, prepping that specific thing with question drills is really helpful. Because if you think about every question you can get asked on a podcast related to your subject matter expertise, no one's going to ask you what your favorite color is on a podcast. They're going to ask you something that's specific to what you do. Well, if you've thought about all the questions in the way that I have, I've probably done the question drill myself 500-600 times in relation to my expertise. There's nothing anymore that someone can ask me about communication that I just don't have the answer to. It's very rare. The only question I've been stuck on in my whole career at this point is what's a question that no one has asked you that you want to answer? That's a really difficult question for me because I've thought of every question. So that's the only question I can't answer. But every other question I've been able to figure out.
Listen, that's good. You're ahead of the game.
But the point I want to drive is I'm not special. Right, that's the point I want to drive. Is there's nothing special about me. I still live in my mother's basement. I have a crooked left arm. I've spoke French as a second language my whole life. I grew up in Montreal, and I was super uncomfortable with presentations. And you would think that a communication expert studied in comms. I didn't study in communication. I have an accounting degree. So the point I want to drive is everything that I have right now that I'm speaking to you with, Joseph, is 100%, maybe 99% earned. It's really I woke up, I did the question drills, I did the random word exercise 3,000 times. I'm not exaggerating that number. It's really been 3,000, probably more. I'm underestimating the number to make sure I don't get caught. And I've done a ton of video. Just last weekend, I sent 21 or something video messages to clients, to people that I love, to people I appreciate. So it's not the fact that I'm just standing here and going, oh, yeah, if I can do it, you no. I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this can invest 15 minutes a day doing the random word exercise for 5 minutes, doing the question drill for 5 minutes, doing the video message for 5 minutes. And why am I so confident people can make 15 minutes? Because they've already invested 22 listening to this bloody podcast, listening to this conversation. So they can do it too. The difference is just people don't do it. They don't take the action.
So for you, what was the call to action?
Yeah, I would say for me, the call to action was, because we all need that desire, right? That motivation to do something. So for me, it goes back to this question that people can reflect on. And the question is very simple. It's just people don't think about it because no one's ever asked it. How would your life change if you're an exceptional communicator? How would your life change if you were an exceptional communicator? The biggest problem with communication, Joseph, is a lot of it is saturated negativity, stress, anxiety. So it's not going to help us. Whereas when we see communication like a fun thing to do rather than a chore, and we start to dream, wait a second, communication is so much more than a presentation that we give at work. It's so much more than getting a salary bump at work. It's the way that we talk to our families. It's the way that we travel to new places and new countries and we interact with people for the first time. That's what communication is about. So once you find that reason for you, you can master communication. And for me, it wasn't some philanthropic thing that made me a great communicator. I'm just really competitive, like Michael Jordan is, but just not in basketball, in case competitions. So when I started losing these things when I was 19, I said, no, I'm not going to lose these bloody competitions. I'm going to work my ass off because I want to win. And that was my motivation. It wasn't like something altruistic. It was like, no, I want to win these things because I should be the best at anything that I do. So for all of us, that reason is different. But the key is you got to find what that is for you and triple down on that reason.
That's good. So when we talk about communication, I'm glad you said that. You said that we're not just talking about like a presentation or just speaking in front of people. we're talking about everyday communication between you and family members, friends, at work, and things like that. And so different things go into it. So, and talking to people, but also receiving, right? Being able to receive verbally with nonverbal cues and all of that. So do you have any tips for that?
Absolutely. And to keep it really simple today, Joseph, because I know there's already a lot of things on people's plate. Shit, I got to do the random word next time. I got to do question drills. I got to video messages. I would say for me, relationships are always one in the micro interactions over time. So what does that mean? It's not about buying a big gift for your wife or your spouse or your family member or your niece every year. It's more about getting them a glass of water every day when they're not asking for it. That's the thing. And it doesn't have to be a glass of water, obviously, if you get what I mean. It's those little things over time that add up. So one easy trick that I can recommend is the idea of questions versus statements. So what does that mean? Most of what we say as human beings are statements, Joseph. So they're mostly like, you believe what you believe, I believe what I believe, and we kind of just go, I believe this, and it's statement, 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 statement. Whereas what exceptional communicators and listeners do is that the ratio between the number of statements and the number of questions that they ask is different. So for example, let's say they're talking to somebody, and somebody goes, I believe this. The person responds with, why do you believe that? Why is that important to you? Why do you find it fascinating? So there's a very big difference between saying, do you like oranges, yes or no, versus going, what do you find about oranges that is so fascinating to you? So it's the power of asking more questions rather than statements. So the only recommendation I have to keep things super simple is look at the ratio. Really ask yourself, when you enter a conversation, when you talk to somebody, obviously today's the exception. I'm the guest. I know I have to blab, right? Or else I would just ask them. But if we were having dinner, that's not what I do. I don't just blab. I don't monologue for 2 hours. It's like, no, well, Joseph, what do you think? I want to get your perspective. Is what percentage are you talking questions versus are you talking statements? And for most of us, there's too much statements and there needs to be more questions.
Yeah. Oh, now listen, man, this is a conversation. If you have questions, please ask. Please. When most people come on, they're like, this is yours, so we'll talk. But no, if you have questions, I'm here.
I appreciate
I am here. Resources. So where can people find your resources, and where would you like the audience to go to?
Of course, man. And thanks so much for the conversation, Joseph. This is super fun. So 2 easy ways to keep in touch. Number 1 is the YouTube channel. Just go to MasterTalk in one word. And you'll have access to hundreds of free videos on how to communicate ideas. And number 2 is you can register for one of my free trainings over Zoom that I facilitate on communication. It's free. It's every few weeks. And you can sign up for that at rockstarcommunicator.com.
All right. So MasterTalk, the link for MasterTalk on YouTube, and then also link to rockstarcommunicator.com will be in the description. Brenden, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Love your
energy.
energy.
Such a pleasure.
Love your energy, man.
We try.